I entered the service in 1970, July 7th, 1970. And from there, I went to Vietnam in December of 1970. The first memory I have of that is I flew out of Anchorage, Alaska, and we stopped in Yokota, Japan for the refueling and all of that stuff, and then on to Cam Ranh Bay in Vietnam. And the first thing I can remember about Vietnam was when they opened the doors of that airplane, the heat, the blast of heat that hit us and humidity. And from that day forward and all the time I was there, I was wet either from the monsoons or sweating. And Cameron Bay was a big army base. And that was really my first. I was there 14 months. A normal tour is 12 months. But I had 2 more months to go before I could get out for the early out, and my tour was going to be up. So I extended in Vietnam so I wouldn't have to come home and serve 2 months stateside down to Fort Hood, Texas. I said it's probably not a good idea for me to go back to stateside army duty after being out in the jungle for a year. So now I'm on the fire base, and I was put in a platoon, Alpha Company, 1st of the 7th Cavalry, 3rd Platoon. And all of this, I was on my own. I didn't know anybody. They just say, you go there and you go there. Drew out my equipment, my M16 and my backpack and everything else I need out in the jungle, and did the training. Then they put me into my platoon, and I was introduced to the lieutenant at the time, and he assigned me to pull guard duty in some bunker on the perimeter of the fire base. So my first night out in the field, that's what I did. And the next day, they were actually, my platoon was back at the fire base. We called it the rear. Mm-hmm. It was really out in the middle of the jungle, but that's where the gun support was all set up and everything. So I was introduced to some of the guys in the platoon, and they assigned me to 3rd Platoon. And I met my platoon sergeant, and he hooked me up with a gentleman, Gary Woods, who had been in country about 3 months, and he was a machine gunner. And he says, you're going to be Gary's assistant machine gunner. You hang with him. And the platoon was scheduled to go be inserted into the jungle that afternoon. So that was my my welcome out there in the fields. So we went and drew our C rations and our ammo and got all prepared to go out. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know. I just watched people help me out a little bit. And everybody, when you're new, everybody likes to stay away from you because it seems like the first ones that get hit out in the field were new guys. So everybody kept their distance, but they did what they were supposed to do. I was very fortunate to be in the platoon I was in because the lieutenants I had, and I served under 3 lieutenants. Anyways, that afternoon we boarded the choppers, and they flew us to our destination out in the jungle. They had to blow an LZ. They used 500-pound daisy cutters, they call them, which just wipes out an area of any trees, and then the choppers can land in there, and that's what happened that day. So you're hitting the ground and smoking, and trees are all over the place, and I'm going, this is not a good situation. And I just followed Gary. And first thing you do is head for the tree line for cover. And that day, it was pretty late in the afternoon, and the sun goes down pretty early. It gets pretty dark in the jungle very early in the day. So we walked about 1 click about 1,000 meters, and we set up our night defensive position. So my very first night, and it was just the beginning of the monsoon season. So we got quite a bit of rain that night, and I learned how to put up a poncho, hooked it to Gary's poncho, and you tie it to the tree branches and off onto the bamboo and everything. And put your ground cover down and crawl underneath your poncho liner, and put your mosquito net around it, of course, and set up for the night. And each person had to take an hour shift on guard duty. We'd set up in like a triangle formation, so we'd have a M60 machine gun on every point. Most times we had 3 gunners, sometimes only 2. So I followed Gary in the watch, and we weren't far from the gun where we had set up our hooch, but at night in the triple canopy jungle, you can put your hand in front of your face and not see it. It's that dark. So it was an adventure when he shook me to wake up for my guard duty. I very slowly and carefully crawled my way over to where I thought the gun was, and I was fortunate enough to find it. I had practiced that trip, and it was probably not even 50 foot away from where we were, but there's another story about that, where one time I thought I was going back to my hooch, but I was actually crawling outside the perimeter. And this was months later, but it was crazy. So I found the det cord for the Claymore mine that we had set out, and I followed that in the direction I thought it was back to my hooch. Well, it was to the Claymore. So I carefully pulled the blasting cap out of it and followed it back to, and then I just stayed up the rest of the night with guard duty. But anyways, my first night, morning came, and we were up. There was a stream bed down below us, and then on each side there was, it kind of went up. And we were on one side of the stream, and we had our breakfast, our sea rations, and they told me to get 7 of us were put in a squad, and our job was to go straight down into the stream bed, cross over, and go up on top. We were doing a little recon of the area. And I was 3rd platoon. 1st platoon went off to the right to flank us, and 2nd platoon stayed back at our NDP, night defensive position. We started down and got in. I was walking 3rd in line. There was 7 or 8 of us headed in, and first 2 guys got up, climbed over the edge of the bank and got up on land on the other side of it, and I was in the middle of it, and all of a sudden all hell broke loose. Mines went off, automatic fire, RPGs were coming at us, and the machine gunner was behind us, and he got hit. Well, the 3 guys behind me got hit. Machine gunner lost all 4 of his fingers. They knocked the gun out. That was their number 1 target. Knocked the gun out first, and I made it to the side of the stream, and I had some protection, and I just started firing my M16 in the direction I thought the fire was coming from, and it seemed like it was forever, but that whole thing took 30 seconds. They would always hit and run. And remember looking in the stream bed trying to find the gunner's fingers. And I didn't know any of these guys at this point. I only knew Gary and the lieutenant. So that all cleared. We brought in medevacs, got them out. And once we got all organized again, we continued up that side of to get up to see where they had staged the ambush. And we found some bunkers and some tunnels and hooches, we called them. They were the above ground buildings, thatch roofs and stuff like that. Most of the time made from bamboo. And I was a new guy, so the lieutenant wanted someone to go down one of the tunnels, and he picked me. And I couldn't go too far. I got down in there, they give a flashlight and 45. And down I went, not knowing any better, not just doing what I was told to do. They tie a rope around your ankle, and then I crawled down in. But because it kept getting smaller and smaller, I couldn't go any further. And so they pulled me back out by my ankle. And we blew it with C4, plastic explosive. We blew that tunnel and a couple of the bunkers. And that was the rest of the day. So we moved on a little bit, and then set up another night defensive position. But that was my first full day in the jungle of Vietnam, and I thought, laying underneath my poncho liner that night, this is going to be a long year. Yeah, I can remember getting off the flight from Saigon and landing in California. They processed us. They just wanted to get us out of there. They gave us I flew home in my jungle fatigue. It's what I walked out of the jungle with. That's what I wore home. And they processed us through. They put, here's your dress greens. They gave us a meal, which you pretty much ate standing up because they just kept moving. I just remember grabbing a big quart of chocolate milk, and man, I made that thing disappear. That was so good. But then we had to go home. And at the time, when you left the base, headed to the airport, it was all chain link fence all the way around because people threw stuff at you, spit at you, and called you every name in the book, and yeah, it was very and all we wanted to do was go home after serving them. And it was, that was and I pretty much tried to disappear in society once I did get home. Tried to melt in and not really bring up the fact that I had been in the military and everything. And it was a struggle. Many, many years I struggled with it, and I suffer from PTSD. And it took many, many years to get to a good place. But it did happen for me. I'm one of the fortunate ones. Been surrounded by very good people, and my wife is a saint. I will always say that. She put up with an awful lot from me. And I was just trying to cope with life and understand what happened to me. So yeah, I was pretty much an alcoholic. Just wanted to get away. Don't do that. That's not the answer. The drugs and alcohol or any of the other abusive stuff. Try to stay in contact with someone you trusted and you served with that may have mentored you or helped you along the way. Try to find other veterans to talk with. That's when the process for me started take hold. I went well, basically my wife says, you're going to counseling or you're going. And I did it. I fought it all the way, but I did it. Wasn't necessarily, at first it wasn't veterans I was talking to and I didn't feel comfortable. Um, but then I found some vets, um, and hey, he went through a lot of what I did, and we could share things and share other interests too. You don't have to, it's not all about that. Life's out there and it's a process. It's a process to come home. It's not you get off the plane and you're home. You have to put some work into it. You have to be strong and don't take not the easy way, but don't take the easy way as far as abusing yourself and hurting yourself. Don't do it. There's people out there. There's things to do out there that can help you and put your mind at ease. Give you a little understanding of what we went through because you can't explain it. I mean, I couldn't tell anybody uh, the experiences I've had. Only a veteran would understand it. It's been through a similar thing. It's just impossible, and I don't expect them to understand it. It's just so if you can bond with some people that share that, that's the best road I found, and it gave me peace um, after a long time of not having that. So yeah, that's what worked for me. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Took many years, but yes, yeah. I found peace in fishing, of all things. Just sometimes the camaraderie with someone I was fishing with, or just if I was by myself, the quiet and the peace. Yeah, I was always a worker. I was a tradesman, and I worked hard, and I found joy in doing that, and accomplishing and building stuff. That kind of kept me busy and kept me focused. Yeah.